Live with audio.
All
Fading
right.
in. Hello, hello.
All right. So
We are live.
we have an opener for TNS. I think in some ways we should just have an opener for Udicci and we use it on anything that we use it on. Um, all right. So now we're back to that. Good. Now I gotta just kind of fix my camera or whatever. So I
Ah.
am going to pull that down and we'll go from there. Um, all right. So tuning in for anybody who might just be joining us for the first time. Welcome. My name is Chuck. Down there's Tim.
That's me. Running back and forth to make sure YouTube is looking good. So we're live on several platforms. Very good.
Good. So Thursday Night Social is really just a time that we kind of put out there for whoever wants to join us and kind of, join the conversation about what's going on in the blockchain world and the economy and really just kind of talking about the world as a whole. And it's time to be social. We do have some purpose behind it. We catch up on development. We share one another's projects that are going out, but it's really meant to be a very collaborative effort. And hopefully you'll see some other people join in. Normally we have some people ready to go right out of the gate, but tonight some people had uh, some other business stuff that was going on. I guess it kind of is where when connecting with people on the West Coast, and they're still working at this time of the day. So who knows? Maybe we'll have to move this to midnight or something like.
It seems that my schedule is getting all messed up lately. So I don't know what's happening. I seem to have an echo.
I do hear a little bit of an echo. All
Okay.
right. Well, I think you
Maybe
sound
that's
fine.
solved. Nope.
Nope, it's not. You still have an echo.
Okay, well, I will try to figure that out while you continue talking.
That's really interesting, though. I mean, I can't. It's yeah. I don't think it would
How
be
about
coming back
now?
through mine.
I
Nope,
wonder.
that sounds like it.
It
Go ahead.
fixed it? Nope.
Yeah, you still have a little bit. What do you? So what do you mess? How about just one of the? Did you maybe hit your knob on your actual microphone? Because there is a couple knobs on a few of those that will do that. I know I had the one here could sort of cause a background echo
Hit the knob.
on your actual microphone. Are there any on the actual
Huh.
microphone right in front of you, like the one
Oh,
you're
I know
talking
what's
into?
going on.
Oh, okay.
Bear with me a minute.
That does, it's weird. You don't kind of hear it all the
Test.
time.
Nope. Hold on one second. Nothing like live stream production.
It's not that bad though, so maybe it's not a big deal. I mean, just talk a little bit. Let's see if it's really an issue.
All right, hold on a minute. I'm not sure why this is doing.
It's kind of weird how like every time you get on, you have to reset all of your audio. You,
Yeah, I don't know what this one
I think you're
is.
fine.
Yeah, hold on a minute. So let me fade. We're going to go to TNS for a second. See if maybe there's a.
You sound fine.
Are you sure?
I think so. I'm not
Oh,
hearing anything.
okay.
I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
not that anything to do. Anyways, so going back to that, yeah. So we need to get an opener for the show, and how we normally open the show is trying to fix these same audio issues every week. But
I think
for me, I'm just going to go to like these headsets, make life a little bit easier.
I think I've got it
Obviously,
solved. Nope.
no, now you don't. You just brought it back. Um, I'm thinking like you've got your mic going in, and on Discord, you're using um, your computer mic or something. It's just picking both up or sending them both out, but who knows? Um,
Yeah, we'll have to. I'll have to play with it.
Yeah, whatever you did just made it worse. I mean, it was fine. And then you're like, oh, wait, I've got the answer. And you went to more echoes.
I know what's going on. I'm trying to figure out where it's going on.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'm just going to ramble for a little bit while Tim is fixing that. So, like I said, normally one of the things that we do on Thursday nights for anybody who might be tuning in for the first time and starting to get to know us is we sort of just start by talking about what's going on in the world. And we try to keep it, blockchain or economy oriented, just kind of around, well-being of society. We can certainly go into a number of topics, and we just sort of lead it from there. And then as the night goes on, we start to talk about actual blockchain development. We'll do some updates of what's going on. We sort of talk about where we are in our development when we're getting ready to launch, what that's going about, because a lot of this is to just promote what we're working on and have been working on for a long time. And in that, if we have people joining us, they'll just kind of come in, join the conversation. And in time, we also, on occasions, we do just like audience conversations where we just invite people to join us. Tonight, we're just going to begin with what's going on with Carmen Sandiego. Now,
With
I don't mean that
Carmen San Diego?
obviously. Yeah, isn't that, wait, where in the world? That's where in the
Where in the
world is
world is
Carmen
Carmen San
Sandiego.
Diego? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I think it
Gosh, I haven't heard
was,
that in forever.
I think it was, let's see here if I can find it. Um, okay, so I don't know which company it was. Might have been Chase, but I believe it was one of the big banks. All right, looks like maybe who's joining us? Eddie is
Eddie.
joining us. That's
Nice.
that's great. That's awesome.
Hey,
Hello, sir. How are you?
pretty good. How you guys been?
Good, Eddie.
Excellent. Excellent. So hey, I actually I'm really honestly glad that you guys came on. I just watched last week. You and John did a call with somebody, and I can't remember his name now, but I watched about an hour of the show. It was he sort of does some promotional coins when you guys come on for that episode, and I think it was his second season doing this.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it was
that
pretty
was
cool.
yeah, I like that idea where like okay, you come on, you have some people talk to you, and you're like okay, we're gonna create this coin, and I wanted to ask you guys like so how does that work? Are you guys actually is it like a per episode coin and like your producers, he's producers, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that team, that's all them. They kind of do it. It helps them. They're not relying on any YouTube ads or whatever. The NFT projects that come on, every time they come on, they do like a little collaboration promo token with them and sell it, and it helps the show to keep going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was trying to, I wasn't quite following that when he showed, it looked like the intro, and I was assuming that was the promo. Is
Yep.
that right? Okay,
Yeah, and
cool.
there was actually two different promos. So one was like a regular promo, and then they did like a special gold card, which were more rare. So it ended up being pretty cool. I think they ended up selling out. They only made like a little over 200 of them. So that was awesome. I'm glad they worked out for them. So
Now, where are they selling these? I mean, like, so, you see a lot of people out there right now getting, here's our NFT. How are they, I think that had 100 and some odd views on it when I watched it. I mean, maybe it's got 1,000 or so, right? But I mean, to sell 200 when you're talking to, let's say, hundred at best hundreds of people, that's great. I mean, that's great
yeah.
return. So I can't imagine they're only working on their community. But do you know like how they go about selling those? I know you guys have had a lot of success.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think whoever they're interviewing, you kind of bring that whole community in there. So this is all being sold on Cardano. So
Yeah.
this is what's different with the Cardano NFTs. We don't have smart contracts yet on Cardano, but we don't need them for NFTs because they're native. So you can
Oh,
make NFTs natively on Cardano with no smart contracts.
okay. That's it. So I actually I thought that the smart contracts, is it Alonso that they were going to
Yeah,
allow the
so
smart?
So they're on Alonzo, I think it's Alonzo Blue right now, which is like a very select set of uh, you know, a private test net, let's say, right?
Okay.
And then they're going to go to Alonzo White, which is still the private test net, but it's a bigger, selection of people. And then Alonzo Purple, which I think should be coming out by the end of the July or somewhere in time in July, comes to the public test net.
I see.
So once that happens, then we could all play with it. And then obviously it goes live sometime August, September on mainnet.
And that'll have full smart contract, right?
Yep.
Inside
And
of
it's a
that.
little different, because it's Plutus is a functional programming language, so it's going to be a little different. Some things are easier, some things are harder. So that's what everybody's trying to play with right now and figure out.
So
Pretty cool
last
stuff.
time last time we talked about it, you were starting to just read up on Plutus. Are you still full on
I'm
trying
still
to learn?
just reading. Now I'm still just reading. It's not in public testnet yet, but I'm watching. I'm staying attuned to like they have like weekly dev calls
Mm-hmm.
where you can kind of see what everybody's doing, and in those Plutus Pioneers videos too, they get into a lot of the programming, and you can see the smart contracts and different stuff they're executing already on the testnet. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we
You know,
actually have our main NFT launch was today, so it's been live today since like 1 o'clock. So it's been about 6 hours in.
your Cardano the Cardano buds.
Yep.
So what was last week when you were doing the I'll call it the treasure hunt. The when I was following on Discord when you guys were out there kind of like, hey, look for what was that then? I thought that was the
So
launch.
so no, we had promo tokens. So we have our main tokens, but then we just thought the character would look cool in different movie scenes and stuff. So to try to create a little buzz, we did runs of these promo tokens leading up to the main drop today. And we sold those for super cheap. I think it was like 3 Cardano, something like that.
Okay.
And it was just to get them out there, let people see them. But once they were, we only sold them for a certain amount of time, and after then the policy was locked. So there's only the promos are actually going to be pretty rare too, when it's all said and done. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And then you made so the NFT that you minted, is it just is it more? I'm sorry. Is it one single scene that you've got your character in right now, and you've run like however many of those, and you're gonna sell
Yeah,
those
so
out, or
the promo tokens were, like I said, were showing the different movie scenes and stuff. But then the main token, we did 1,500 on this drop is what's available, and that has the Cardano bud, and then he has different accessories in his hands. There's different background rarities, different strains that are more rare. We even put little Easter eggs in the metadata where you might get a similar token, but search deeper into the metadata and actually see, maybe the THC count is bigger on one or the other. So
oh,
it's pretty fun.
yeah, I was trying to really follow what you guys were doing with it, just by getting bits and pieces, and I was really impressed with how well your community responded to you. I think it's a great. I think the idea of going with some sort of buds thing, you get to play with it. It's fun. And I think that it's very helpful that you're out there on Cardano. Anyways, I think that Cardano community is really kind of pulling together and strong.
Yeah, I mean, and just so the community's been really cool. The Discord coming together has been cool. And then just what we could do on Cardano, like we couldn't do this on Ethereum, right? To sell 1,500 tokens on Ethereum, I mean, the services that are out there already, you'd have to mint them first, so that'd be upfront costs, and it's a lot more expensive. Where this, we set up a whole process where it gets minted on the fly. So when the transaction comes in, it sees the transaction, it gets minted on the fly and sent back to the wallet automatically. So it's a pretty elegant little system, and it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Now, so what's next in Cardano buds? I mean, so how long do you let this sit with the 1,500? Is it till it's sold? Or is this it, and then you create a new version, or? What
Yeah,
does that
so
look
we
like?
actually have some pretty cool things. So with the Cardano Buds logo, it was kind of tying in Dragon Ball Z like
Yep.
vibes. So what we decided to do was 7 drops, and in each drop there's one Dragon Bud. So it's a special
Oh,
card. And so we're doing this first drop now, but if you collect all 7, like whoever gets those, we're gonna have a nice surprise at the end of that. But yeah, so we're doing 7 drops. This is the first one, and we're just gonna play it by ear, see how this one goes, and
so
go
now,
from there.
I guess more of a technical question. So you're gonna have like, I'm sorry, and you have the 7. What'd you call it? The gold card. What'd
Dragon
you call?
Buds.
Dragon Buds. So
Yeah.
you have like the Dragon Buds card. So you got 1 out of 1,500 chance if you're going to do the same numbers, just using
Yep.
rough numbers. So 1 out of 1,500 chance of getting the Dragon Buds. Um, wherever that comes, is it a random selection that happens, and then once it's minted, does the community know it's been minted before the end of it?
Yeah, so you could watch this on Pool PM right now and see. So Pool.pm is a Cardano utility. It was actually, this is a really good segue. So there's been certain projects and tools like that that actually have been funded by the Cardano community. And you go to Pool.pm and you can see all the tokens that are being minted on Cardano right now, live, like everything that's happening. You can go into your wallet, see all the NFTs in your wallet. And this was a, you know, funded by the community, and there's a team behind it. And it's been really helpful. I use Pool.pm all the time.
Pool.pm. I'm gonna check that out. That's cool. I mean, in many ways, that itself is almost like a new version of uh, media. Right? It's like it's. I don't want to call it a stock symbol. It's certainly not like we're watching TV, but literally we can start to watch what various things are being minted on a token on a chain. That's a whole new idea of media. Now, what it evolves to, I don't know. Right? But
Yeah,
it's really, really cool to start to see like the very beginnings of what this looks like.
yeah. The really cool thing is on some of these dev calls, seeing these teams that are working on some really innovative stuff. Even though we don't have smart contracts, right? We can tie the NFT to an image, but then there's people that made the image basically a web page that reacts to touch screens. So you have this little character that you could, tickle. and and there's all kind of really cool stuff that teams are coming up with. This other team has a proposal on Project Catalyst to set them up so that when you get the NFT, it gets placed in this virtual world and just lives its life. So you can constantly check up on your NFT, see how it's doing. So like really cool stuff. I really wonder where it's gonna go, and then when some of these big gaming companies and teams really see the potential in that, because that's huge.
I can't even wrap my head around still how you would actually make so the touching, the tickling of the token, whatever, is that all in the metadata?
Yeah, so that guy was the guy that I saw in the dev call. Yeah, so the link, I guess, like the image itself was a web page. So then it linked back to the web page. So then when you look at your NFT, it basically gives you this web page, which was an interactive web page of a character. So you could touch it, you could do different things. If it's
That is
sleeping, you could wake
awesome.
it up.
That is
So
awesome too, right? Because there you go, whatever the number is, 1,000, 1,500, you could have the same character, but how you interact with that character would be different.
yeah,
Right? So then people would want to go out and buy other character. I mean, I can see kids going crazy with this, right? If we
yeah, it's
thought
like
Teddy,
yep, I could see Tamagotchis. It's like Tamagotchis renewed. All those little pets we used to have, those digital pets,
that
but
is,
now on the
yeah,
blockchain.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. And it's like it's truly my Teddy Ruxpin, right? It's like it's unique in every way. And that's awesome. I definitely at some point in time would love to. So have you run across any like calls like this where it is more the creative side the creative process of these tokens. And I don't know if I'm asking that well, right? Like, so if I wanted to back in the day put together, something in Flash, you go watch some videos on. Wow, I just lost it. What was the Adobe program that you did Flash in? Okay,
Sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
what was it? You know what I'm talking about, though, right? The
Right.
actual Adobe
Well,
suite
it's
that you
just
did all the.
Flash, yeah.
Yeah, I know there was Adobe Flash, but then Shockwave or something.
So Shockwave. That's right. That's what I had in my mind, right? I mean, like, I'd imagine that there's some form of that going on right now, or are they just using the tools that are available and just putting it out there as metadata? But then how do you, like, the size of that data must get huge, and they're not writing that all as a transaction, are they?
No, I forget the exact limit per transaction, but it's pretty decent. Like we had no issues with all of our images. All of our images were static images though, nothing crazy. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the Cardano CLI, it's literally like a few commands to make an NFT, and that's native. So on Ethereum and some of these other ones, you have to write I mean, you can get templates from people, but you have to write an ERC 721 smart contract to have an NFT on Ethereum. And Cardano just built that in. So the whole process of having an NFT and even fungible tokens as well, it's just a couple command line stuff. You just need a Cardano node. And that's, anybody can start a Cardano node. You start it up. There's a great guide on pool.pm, or not pool.pm, coincashu.com to like start your own stake pool and, run the nodes and go through that whole process. So it's pretty cool.
So that kind of brings us to. I did want to come back and even start talking about how is the pool going. I was I was a little confused. I thought that you and Huth were running the pool together, but you both have separate pools, from my understanding, correct?
Right. Yeah. We both have separate pools. We help each other out or whatever.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, the pools are doing good. I've now processed and validated 4 blocks on the Cardano blockchain. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, John, I think, has gotten even more. So we are trying to be a part.
Yeah. And this comes. So we've been trying to just reach out across multiple blockchains. We met with somebody yesterday who's doing some development on Ethereum, and then of course still got some stuff going on the BSV. But ultimately, we're still trying to figure out, like, okay, you've got a very collaborative culture inside of blockchain communities, and it seems to be generally, I can say, you can find them. Because I'm also seeing that inside of, like, say, some of the communities are not as collaborative. They're very kind of almost standoffish in some ways because they kind of want to. It's kind of like the one ring to rule them all. If you actually believe that there should be more than one, you
Yeah.
can't. You're taken out of the conversation there. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, how to kind of begin to create. And we talked about a little bit about this before. Better collaboration. And I don't know if it's just all has to be organic, and that's fine. So one of the things I've been talking about lately is I want to create something that I'm calling a frog pond. In part because I have a brand, House Frogmore. But the frog pond was really going to be nothing more than a pool of people. It could be individuals or little groups that we all sort of agree that will be part of a group that helps one another if and when you choose. And I've been thinking about it. And when I watched that other podcast that you guys did, and they were talking about the promos per episode, that's why I was like, that's exactly what we need, is some sort of means of creating a coin per project that you're marketing, right? And then you could sort of have commissions flow back to the frog pond that helped market it, right? So
Yeah. So that would probably take smart contracts. So any royalties or commissions like that, that's what smart contracts are going to be for. But yeah, you could definitely do something like that, right? Set up some kind of commission structure. So if you did promo tokens for them, you guys got a cut, they got a cut. Yeah, that could be definitely one way to collab.
I think it'd be fun, right? I mean, particularly, like, so you guys have what you're doing, and now how you would go about then tracking necessarily who came from where. I mean, in some ways, going way back to what was that link sharing thing? Conjunction something. Anyways, there was a commission junction. You guys remember that
Okay.
back in the day?
Yeah,
I don't remember that, but
Well, yeah, there was something.
you tell me about it.
Commission Junction. There was a whole bunch of them, but yeah,
Yeah, Tim, what was the name? I'm losing track of what that was. Basically, it was if you promoted a website, you sent somebody to their website, you got paid a commission. I mean, it was like the early stages of, and it's more than just link sharing.
yeah.
What was the name of it?
So yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how it worked, but essentially we did it for 1K for a while, where we used it to fill the board. Where every time you clicked on that image, whatever that image was, they provided like multiple images through their through this interface, and then what would happen is that you would actually click on it, and I mean it was like, I don't know, it was like maybe a cent, 2 cents every time.
Right.
I mean, you might even had to have like 100 clicks to get a nickel or something like that. So
Yeah.
it was very, very, very low cost.
I just looked at affiliate marketing, right? I mean, basically that's what it was. It was affiliate marketing. So somehow we'd have to have like, how did somebody get, let's say, use the Cardano buds? If the Cardano buds had an agreement with the Frog Pond and the Frog Pond sent people to the Cardano buds, that's how the commission is earned, right? So there need to be some sort of tracking. And I don't exactly know how you do that tracking, unless maybe there's just an assumption. I don't know how you do that. But yeah, I mean, so I would love to really think through that, because I think it's entirely possible, right? And then once you do that one time, you really open up huge opportunities, because you truly are acting as a broker in between and connecting communities, and particularly like you're enabling.
You're a node in the network, and you get a portion of the cut for any transaction that goes through, kind of thing, right?
I think so, right? So
That's the
how
way
would
it
you
seems like to me.
Yeah, it's now processing, like how do if we're out there marketing it, that's sort of one thing. So let's say that Tim is part of the Frog Pond and we're out there trying to do Cardano buds, and we try to send somebody and they're like, hey, go check out join their Discord piece, right? There's not necessarily, I mean, you could probably start using cookies, but that goes against a little bit of everything, right? I mean, like, so how would you actually then track?
Yeah, that's the thing, is how to because it's done in royalties and stuff in a transaction.
Right, that's the easy part,
But then
right?
we'd have to figure out a way to make the link, that click, be a transaction somehow.
Oh, there you go.
It actually just JavaScript code that executes multiple steps in one. I don't know.
But playing devil's advocate, then we'd have to figure out a way so somebody can just have a bot and click something a million times.
There you go.
Yep.
Right, and that's
Wow.
right. But yeah, so
But that's where you tie in CAPTCHA or stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay.
That'd be interesting. That could
Yeah,
do it.
that would definitely be interesting, right? So I think you're right. You set up a transaction, which is the link. They click the link, and that now, like, it's sending them there, but that somehow designates that person's, I guess, their wallet or something that is, or somehow that they're now connected to Frog Pond. But anyways, I think like something like that would be a fun thing to think about as we're trying to create more collaboration. I loved that the idea there of creating promo tokens when you have people on for a simple conversation like that, because that really was very collaborative. You've got this guy who has his own followers, and now he gets a little something and you guys get a little something, and in this case it was just you got promotion, but you now have actual other tokens out there speaking as almost like billboards. It's like, we live in South Carolina. I don't know if you've ever traveled down 95 okay, so do you remember if you were coming down, whether you're going north or south, you got Pedro talking for about 100 miles, 200 miles about south of the border coming, and you just pass a million different billboards. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, basically that's what we're talking about doing, is creating a million different billboards. Right, to get, it wouldn't be a million, but it would just be a whole bunch of billboards for little
Almost like a whole new
campaigns.
advertising model.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's very, very doable and very relevant to the collaborative nature of blockchain.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. So I mean, definitely collaboration is what helped us, even got me with John and everything. So like, what else? I know you guys were working with SV a little bit, but like, what else have you guys been working on?
Tim?
Yeah. What have I been working? So I've there's been a bunch of projects that we've been kind of talking about, as as far as different levels of involvement, from just creating small NFTs or small tokens all the way up to not quite a Binance, but pretty close to a Binance. So, and I'm not sure how familiar you are, Eddie, with the Binance
Smart chain?
solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a little bit of every range going on right now, and currently there's there's probably about any 5 or 6 of those projects that are going to kick off any moment. And in the meantime, I've been focusing on our platform, still continuing to prep it and get it all moved over to more of a blockchain model, and trying to position us for that. And my thought is to try to keep the we're trying to approach it as a hybrid model, so that the data, the amount of data that's being stored on the blockchain can kind of be determined by the end user. So you can have some that's stored in a database, some that's some that's stored on the blockchain.
On chain?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's all secured by the blockchain unless they choose not to secure it on the blockchain. So there's that kind of hybrid model that's what I've been building towards. And we've got we're at week 4, right, Chuck? We're in the countdown to number 4.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. So
Yeah.
and so
4 weeks
far
until
I'm pretty happy with it. So
and that's still just kind of just till we plant our NFT on BSV. That was really just our what do you want to call it? First goal that we set for ourselves, and we're gonna do that through our system, so that we kind of know that the system is working sufficiently to put that out there, and effectively. I don't know how, I want to be cautious when I say this, but what we're trying to develop right now is effectively the ability for our system to create the smart contract itself. So we'll be able to.
And this is all on SV, right? It's the only development
Currently,
you
yes.
guys are doing.
It's all, but most of it's going to be reliant on S-script, and which allows it to go to Ethereum apparently. And then Tim read somewhere that there is talk or progress that they're going to allow S-script. They're going to build S-script to work on Cardano.
Oh yeah, I'll look into that. That'll be really interesting. I know with any, if you can somehow bring it over to Ethereum, there is like an ERC20 converter type stuff. So you could then convert that to Cardano with that tool. So it's almost a roundabout
Okay.
way of doing it, but that's one way.
Yeah.
There might be some cleanup or something, but that'd be interesting.
Our
Now,
goal
I
is
was going to ask you guys because I was actually, so I love podcasts myself. I was watching the Lex Friedman podcast. If you guys know that one.
I do not know that one.
So he's a like a MIT graduate, really smart dude, but also like black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. You
Okay.
know, like cool dude. But he's been having a lot of crypto guys on lately, and he had Vitalik, which is the head guy at Ethereum, and then he just had Charles, which is the head guy at Cardano.
Yep.
But both of them are mostly Vitalik. He did not have that kind of things to say about what's his name, the head guy at SV, Craig Wright or something like that.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely
So I was like, man, I got to get with you guys to see what you think about it, because there's like some contention, like because he feels he's Satoshi. I didn't know all the claims. I heard it on the podcast. He feels he's Satoshi, and a lot of people feel like the real Satoshi would never disclose who he is, and so like all these different things.
so I've only gone, so far down that claim because I'm like, okay, is this guy really him? because I think it matters, right? It's like if it's really him. And then, so what I found was that there was a lawsuit that came up and had something to do with, some wallets on Bitcoin. And through different, I should have probably saved it and done some, better work. But through that, it basically was Craig Wright having to answer to the summons that they had, which is like, okay, so now I'm Satoshi. This is what I did, right? And apparently, since that time, he's done a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people in that environment, in the BSV community and around that generally are like, yeah, we don't want it to be, but it seems to be he is, kind of thing. And he openly refers to himself as, that's what he is. We've watched enough videos. The guy is just like all these other guys, right? He's just absolutely brilliant. And, and sometimes that brilliance can come across as arrogance, but then it's also just, what everybody deals with when you're trying to deal with people that think they know everything, and then they're talking exactly about what you do know about, and you're like, I can't even talk because,
Right.
right.
Well,
So
that was one of the things. Supposedly, Vitalik, I guess, caught Craig Wright in some technical. He made some technical error on something that he was. I forget the exact thing, but I would encourage you guys to watch both of those podcasts. They were fascinating. I think the Vitalik one was like 3 hours long, and the Charles one was like 5 hours long. It was ridiculous. So it's going
so
to take some time to get through them. But yeah, Vitalik said Craig had made some claim, and when he looked into his work, he saw that he fundamentally made some technical mistake, and that was another reason why he thought that, well, the real Satoshi wouldn't have made this mistake. So I don't know. It's like crypto drama.
well, I actually think that that's sort of a fun part of all of this too, right? And you think about, and I need to go back. So did you read, what was it, last week, where Mark Cuban had been invested in one of the blockchain, one of the currencies, and literally overnight it went from, what was it, like $60 to zero. It just gone.
Pump and
And
dump.
it wasn't a rug pull, and it wasn't a
No?
pump and dump. Apparently, and I'm not saying I understand this even well enough, but the best way I could describe what I read about it, it was a mathematical error, right? That they had
Oh, is it
somehow
an issue in the code?
Right, that they had somehow written, like, to monitor, if you will, for the whales exiting, those kind of things that are trying to be put into the tokens, and it just kept triggering something in the price that it shouldn't have been triggering, or some supply or some burn or something, and it was
Yeah.
actually like simply a logic error. Which is like,
Yeah.
that's interesting because the mistakes do happen. So I don't know. We do have another guy who's been on a couple times. I don't think you guys have crossed the path yet, but I keep wanting. No, that's the guy, Greg. I keep saying, I'm like, I would love to get Greg and Eddie together because you both have a very you know intriguing the whole thing. You've got them. You've got the technical mind, and you've got like the heart that you kind of want to see with everybody. And he's a big BSV guy. You're, a strong Cardano guy. He's not opposed to other things. You're not opposed to other things. And these are great conversations. What we have heard from him, because apparently he kind of lived through the hashtag wars, which is something I'd never even heard of, the term hashtag wars. But when, like, the Bitcoin, and then it was to the Bitcoin Gold or Bitcoin Cash, and then to the BSV, he said you could just tell through the hashtag wars which people were actually interested in pursuing the heart of what we were talking about and the technical strength of it versus just power, greed, fame, childishness, right? And I think he used to be an attorney, right? I don't know what he was, but he had
Yeah,
a legal
I
background.
think he's got a legal degree or some sort. So yeah.
So it's very, like, his perspective on how he ended up at BSV was really watching, let's say, the social media subcultures that were behind different coins, And I don't think he ever really got too deep into whether Craig Wright was this guy or that guy. And I don't think we've actually had that conversation with him. And we've definitely talked a little bit about Cardano, but it's got the same heart behind it. But I'll definitely check out those the podcasts you're talking about. I am curious. I think it's fun.
It's always good to know both sides of the story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys hear anything about Cardano, let me know.
Oh, I
But,
don't know that we will, right? I mean, I feel like, well, again, we will, but I feel like at least Charles hasn't made the whole thing about Charles.
Yeah, and in his podcast, to his credit, one of the questions was, "Play devil's advocate. What could go wrong with Cardano?" And like play that whole game, and he did.
Yeah.
He just let it all out there, but then also said, this is why we have teams, we have peer review, we have this. We're not just throwing protocols out there. So
And I think that that's really what Cardano did well from day one, right? Is they literally went through and had, all the white papers peer reviewed, right? They went day one. It's like, okay, before we take any steps forward, let's look at this. And I do remember one thing Greg talked about, Tim, and maybe you can remember specifically what this was. During one of the forks in Bitcoin, and I can't remember if does anybody remember the order that it was? It was Bitcoin, then it was gold, then cash, then SV.
I don't remember.
I don't
think you're
remember.
close on that, Chuck. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that Greg mentioned in there was the actual some of the writings that went beyond the white paper that they've had, and that's also where they keep coming back to Craig Wright, because there's a whole bunch of supporting documentation behind the actual white paper that he released that had a whole bunch of conversations on it. So I think that's one of the things that goes to it. But in some of that documentation, apparently he talked about one of the things that you have to do as you went through a specific stage of the protocol was to sort of rely on humans to follow the human cause of it, because there's like the pride side and everything else that came out, and that's really what happened. So what they wrote about that could happen as the protocol developed, they actually experienced socially. So there's a huge conversation around that, and I was like, well, that's interesting, right? Because if you did think in advance about that and how the technology would affect humanity, and it did have its impact, and again, he didn't go so deep on it, but there are a ton of great conversations about how about Justin Sun? Did the guy from
Tron.
was Tron, right? And then what he did to Steam. I mean, that whole thing was like, wait a second, they were like moving money because of governance. I mean, when I read that thing, I'm sitting here telling my wife there is an entire daytime soap opera series that waiting to happen out of that one.
I didn't see what he did to Steve. What was that whole thing about?
So, okay, something about the way I think it was Steam's governance is you could sort of stake your the number of coins you have so that you could make some rules that would change the governance of it. Like, okay, great. But then you couldn't have it from a specific wallet, right? So then all of a sudden it was like, well, he has all these other wallets. Then they got to the point, well, we can't do it this way. So he went and placed a whole bunch of money in exchanges and started having those exchanges stake to something in Steam.
Yeah.
And it would change the, so they could go in and
Governance.
change the governance. And then some of the people who were left in Steam went in and like changed code to undo what he had done, right? So there's like this big, huge
Oh,
thing, and
crypto wars. Yeah.
yeah, right. Which is like,
Interesting.
okay, it's very interesting. There's a lot of stories out there that are so much bigger than the actual technology itself, because it speaks to what the technology is also trying to solve. And whether it will be able to solve it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hard part. How do you get by the human element? You know, that's you don't know. It's really interesting. That's like going back to the Oracle problem, right? With Chainlink and all that. It's great that we have a way to look at data and pull data from Chainlink, but then they say, oh, this data is immutable, it's right, and it's like, yeah, but who's inputting that data? And then like,
Right.
could people then compromise that person? Let's say there was some big smart contract who's going to win the fight tomorrow night, and they get with the guy inputting that data, and then this smart contract perfectly executes the wrong thing, and a lot of money gets taken.
Right.
So it's like there's still a human element, right? It's so we gotta figure that out. And I've heard different proposals specifically for the Oracle thing, where you can write maybe funds could get reversed in a certain amount of days after a certain amount of people validate the outcome of that data. So you have multiple, not just one Oracle or one chain link, but you have a whole group of different oracles that validate each other. And so, I don't know. It's really
Similar
interesting
model.
to see,
Yeah.
how we're gonna get by that.
Wow, that truly is interesting, right? Because now you're absolutely right in that in the same way you have to protect the blockchain from, let's say, any 51% problem, or these other Sybil type problems, you're going to have to protect Oracle data in the same way, because you literally could, to your point, you just put out data that brings down a system.
Or just like I said, you have maybe you have $1 million in bets for this one guy to win because he's an underdog, and the bets are stacked for the winner, but the people input the wrong data, and everybody gets automatically paid for the wrong data.
Yeah. Data input entry. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like that's the Oracle problem, and then how do you address that? And so there's all these different issues we're gonna have to go through, but I think it's heading towards that way. Everything's going blockchain. So there's
And
people thinking about it.
I think that, and part of like the human element, I actually think that is probably the single biggest opportunity that we have right now, because we need to get people thinking about economics. We need to get people thinking in terms of economies. And I can't remember one of the things we talked about is that we need to start thinking in terms of peer-to-peer economy, right? What does
Yeah.
that actually mean to have a peer-to-peer economy? And how do we actually help those flourish, and why, right? Because we have to actually work on detaching our thought process from a common value system. Let's call it a dollar, right? We have to get rid of our attachment to a dollar when we think about value exchange, because it's like if we're always relying on a comparison to a dollar, we're still just doing nothing more than basing value on a fiat currency, right? So
Right.
there's
Well, that's to argue against stable coins. People feel stable coins are just the central bank's way of getting back into the scene, right? Because then if you have a trusted third party that says, hey, we got $1 billion and each of these are backed like Tether,
right.
well, you got another central bank there, and which is still manipulated in form of inflation and stuff, right? So you put your 10,000 in a stable coin and you're like, yeah, I didn't lose anything. I got 10,000. But meanwhile, your dollar's going down every day, right? So do you really have 10,000? So there's all
I,
that playing too. So that's the whole case against stable coins, which I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna deal with that one either.
so
There's
far, I
all these
think,
little
yeah, no, and they're fun. They're really fun to think through. And so far, I think one of the best conversations we've had around this has been the idea of private societies and fractional ownership of resources, that kind of idea. And the private society being, we'll keep it, well, right now we could think of it like timeshare, but even better, we live here in South Carolina. Where we live is near to some of the resort areas, right? And a lot of the houses you can buy 1/24th of it. Okay, great. We don't actually have to own 1/24th of a house as much as if we belonged to a peer-to-peer economy that made that house available, and some other houses and some boats and some grass cutters and some weed eaters, and right, and now even some restaurants. And like, I can use our currency inside of there, and I can also go to work in that restaurant and earn in that currency, and I can go to work at, right, that we are actually truly creating our own economies. And the human element starts to come in, because within the actual private society itself, you'll build the rules and people can choose whether to participate in those rules or not. And if you don't want to participate, you would sort of have a cash out opportunity. Like, all right, I've got all these coins. What do you want to do with them? Well, bring them to wherever you're going to go.
Yeah.
And so it's in some ways that the idea of borders and states goes away, and you end up with, maybe better term would be social societies as opposed to a private society, but some sort of intersocietal, right, that is based on the rules of the currency or the rules of the economy, and you get to use different. Now, people may think, I've had a couple of conversations like that's segregation. It's like, no, just quite the contrary. It's actually just saying you're going to end up trading with many other societies, right? And it's just going to be that one society, one society, when you walk into their properties or onto their land, they don't want you smoking any Cardano buds. Okay, while I'm on your property, I won't. And here I've exchanged my currency for your currency, so you're good. Now, if you want to say we never want anybody who smokes bud on this property, well, then I can't come on your property, right? And okay, that's okay. We have that as states right now. Why are we not okay with that? And as long as we keep, and any society that tries to say something along the lines of, well, if you have this skin color, you can't be a part of it. I think those die. I think they have no economy. I think nobody's going to want to trade with them. And if other economies don't want to trade with these societies, you won't have an
Well,
economy.
I kind of see exactly what you're talking about, but instead of societies, organizations, and really them becoming this whole DAO, right? Decentralized autonomous organizations, where, I mean, because I even seen that in everything. I even thought, like, imagine you had a church that, what's the biggest thing, everybody talks about with churches? Oh, where the money going? Where's this go? So imagine that's all public
Yep.
and it's all run by a blockchain, and
Yep.
every budgetary thing goes to a vote, everything. So you kind of have that little society there. And then why do you do that? Oh, well, where do you we want to take all the kids in the church to this trip. We want to allocate these funds. So any tithe or anything you gave, it's in that, like, so the community gets suspended and you don't have to worry about somebody siphoning off. Like, you get to see where the funds are, where the funds move, everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the funny thing for me, the why I keep shying away from the DAO, because it feels to me, the marketing guy, right, that customer experience, it feels too corporate. It feels too business oriented still, whereas society kind of puts the human first. So it's almost like just got to come up with. But yeah, it is. It's a DAO that we're talking about.
DAC. Call it a
There you go.
DAC. The
Yep.
community.
Decentralized
Decentralized
autonomous community. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
So we
Yeah,
got to trademark
Would be
that,
the
right?
DAX.
we'll get the DAX. Quick, we need a new strain called the DAC. Oh yeah,
Nice.
but I mean, it's funny though, because truly we are actually talking about the need for new language also,
I mean, I
right?
can see that also with nonprofit organizations.
Sure.
That too. If there's a cause, there's things you like. All right, well, that's another thing that's kind of shady, right? A lot of times they won't tell you where they're spending. They'll be nonprofit, but the CEO makes all of this craziness. We'll put it all out there, and
Yeah,
then nobody can mess with it. It's on our distributed database we call Cardano or whatever else.
yeah. And I'll tell you one thing I love about, if you were to take like your nation states, let's say in the United States and the individual states, and you simply implement a sales tax, right? Like, okay, you can operate for the nation and the state out of the sales tax, because anything we buy would have a tax applied to it in a value equivalent to your currency, and we understand that. So once we are still contributing to that society according to their rules, the only thing that they're going to have to do is to, like, no, you can't do income, because your income valuations, like, you can't impose your valuation upon me, kind of thing. You can't do it as income. It really should just be at a point of exchange. And I think you begin to like create entirely new dynamic relationships between people groups. And what I find what's kind of fun about that is, we may find that our politics starts to come together a lot more, because it's not going to be that my state is blue or my state is red. It's going to be that our DAC simply wants to exist according to our DAC. And it's like, okay, now good luck having politicians or parties trying to really convince thousands of DACs around the country to follow them, because
Oh
there's
man, I could even see this thinking about this. I could even see this with unions, right?
Yes.
A centralized autonomous union, and then all right, well, we got votes. What do we see? More like that can revolutionize the whole governance side. That's what I like about Cardano too, is the governance side will be built in. So on any coin or anything that I have there, I get to utilize the governance built into Cardano with my project.
And well, you can further the governance, though, correct?
Well, you could build extra stuff in your thing. The ledger and keeping track of all of that, it's all done right there natively.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely interesting. The difference
that would be huge with unions.
Yeah, no, it would, right? And it's really kind of interesting too, because not for anything. I mean, I was having this thought today when our president came out and said that, according to the Second Amendment, our citizens should go ahead and buy some F-15s and nuclear weapons. I know that's not what he said. I'm just paraphrasing when he said, if you think that AR-15s are what you need to come against your government, you're supposed to bring, F-15s and nuclear weapons to defeat the United States. And thankfully, he was only saying that to the people of the United States. So I'm just paraphrasing from the other direction, which is to mean we're supposed to have F-15s. No, I mean, the interesting in all of this is I do think, I was thinking about what is it, and not to take anything away from what the vice president accomplished as, a woman of color. I don't mean this when I say this. I say, what did you really accomplish, except for you've proven you're able to rise to the highest levels of some of the most corrupt nature in our world?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, we need to change that thinking, because I mean, even the unions, there's just massive corruption inside of it. Everywhere you look, there's massive.
All through the government too. I mean, in some not so malicious ways either, but it's still manipulation. Like, let's say you're part of a team in the government that's, I don't know, supposed to do this, right? But you don't like your boss, or you don't like the direction, so you're gonna drag on that. Or if there's a team on the ground, like trying to get some warrants for something, but somebody else above doesn't want to do it. Like, there's so many. It's all a human element where you can get caught up, you can get slowed down, you can just based off different people who don't like you, who kind of like you, who don't think you're smart enough for the position you're in. So yeah, even in government right now, that's all the human element is always there.
And it's also now the other side of this, and this is where I keep thinking that it needs to, the higher conversation that needs to head around blockchain is the economy, right? When you start looking funds, what is it, 25% of all dollars in circulation right now were printed in the last 14 months, something like that. That's a big problem.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, and part of that also comes into when you compare how much the U.S. citizens got in their stimulus versus, once again, how many went to Wall Street, right? Is that they literally, once again, propped up Wall Street. So when we're saying that, the U.S. citizens just got their $4,500, whatever the total final number was that everybody got as a stimulus, basically that's not even going to cover the inflation of what we gave to Wall Street, right?
No.
And if we could start really getting that kind of value, Greg, the guy we were talking about, he read someplace that the average American gets 8% of the value of every dollar they earn. So
Damn.
cents out of every dollar, which is very, very interesting. Now, and what does that value really mean? But what he was getting into is the cost of transactions in a dollar, cost of legal process, cost of all of these other things that go in to transactions that we don't even think about. And it ends up that we get, and after our taxes and everything else, that we get 8 cents.
It's the sneaky way of stealing every cent of that dollar from you, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where, when this government's looking at us as simply a human resource, and basically saying, yeah, we'll pay you $15, we'll make sure you're paid $15 an hour, because that's only $1.20 that you get to keep.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
and it's like, now, well, it doesn't sound like that, because I get to buy my car. I'm still paying for my car, but really, what are you getting out of that car? And it's the same thing we're seeing with, right now with the housing, right? Housing is going through the roof. Why? Right? It's not that there's suddenly a greater demand than there always was and less of a supply. It's just that we have these supply chain issues, and we have, truly, we have inflation driving up these prices. We're not actually getting more house for those dollars. It's not like, because we're now spending 20% more, I'm getting 20% more house. It's, and I know they love to spin this and say, well, hey, look, your house was worth 200,000 last month, and they're, whatever, 6 months ago, and it's worth 240. No. That means I now need to make 240 to buy what I could buy for 200,000 6 months ago. That's actually what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how, like, when we start thinking in terms of 8 cents of every dollar, like, okay, there's a lot. I don't know that we'll ever see the actual full impact of what's about to be implemented here in the next, I'm going to say 3 to 5 years, that we're going to see just
Gonna change a lot. It's like the biggest wealth transfer that most of us will ever see in our lifetime. Because he goes from a central bank that controls all money to the power gets pushed to the edges, and you know there'll still be the early adopters to crypto, but it's almost like that reverse play. Like, they've been for so many years putting that hand in our back pocket, stealing from our dollar, and they don't know what's coming with blockchain. Most governments don't.
I don't think so. I did see today. Oh shoot, I think it was Chase. I don't think it was Citi. One of the big banks, they're issuing a cryptocurrency for their private wealth. Basically, all the big banks have their area that takes care of their wealthy of wealthies. I can't remember the name of theirs, though. It's private wealth, but they're creating a cryptocurrency for that group of people, or for that market segment within their bank. I'm like, that's interesting. Right, like I need to go back, read it a little bit more, because I'm like, what are you actually doing with this? And I was like, are you beginning to put your right? I'm like, are you actually now going to say that all of the assets under management in your private clients group are now in this coin? I mean, that would be something, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, there is just some wild stuff. Tim, what you got? You just turned your thing on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's coming up on 10 after 8, man. So I don't know if you want to end that part of it, or.
Yeah, we can end it for tonight. I mean, I that's cool. But hey, Eddie, I do appreciate you coming on tonight. So we've gone to doing this every week, and we are trying to get a few more people to join in, and then trying to form this into something more. I love the just connect, talk, learn, stay connected aspect of this. I also just want to see us kind of like, okay, now let's get, we've got these ideas, we want to work together. How do we really collectively, collaboratively take a true decentralized group of people who all have their own opinions about various chains, but all are under the same common thinking of what blockchain can do and how it can change economically, that I feel like those are the subcultures that we need to start developing within blockchain, is, because it's really about blockchain, not about any chain, and then it's not even about the chain in my mind as much as it's about the economy and the change that the chain brings.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we're seeing kind of the opposite of that in certain communities where it's become like, the Bitcoin maximalists are like, that's like a religion, every other coin is terrible,
Right.
blah, blah, all this craziness. But no, it's way funner when it's a community. And I think you get further that way anyway. That's why it's all open source and,
Right.
so yeah. And, reach out to me anytime. I'm always down to get on. I have fun with you guys chatting it up. So yeah,
Yeah,
be
we
updated.
definitely need to get this going for a little bit more, but hey, do appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you guys.
All right. We'll talk to you
All
guys
right, you
soon.
guys take it easy.